live. Good morning. Thank you so much for being part of this Bhagavad Gita sadhana yet again. At the time this is being recorded, it is January 31st, the final day of January for us here, the coldest month of the year. So perhaps a chance for a little rejoicing. It's the end of something. We've gotten through the end of the first month of the year, and this relates to our topic today. It's going to be our final discussion on death as a friend before we switch over tomorrow. And one way we can look at death, especially if we look at the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali and compare it to the Bhagavad Gita, is that could we think of death as being the goal of life, especially spiritual life? Now, hear me out. If you're familiar with the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali at all, it describes asana. And the goal of asana in Raj Yoga is to become perfectly still. The goal of pranayama, the breathing practices in the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, blah, blah, is to become breathless. That is, to exhale and spontaneously be able to hold the breath out for a very long period of time. And the goal of meditation in the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali is for the mind to stop so that your individual boundaries, ego especially, dissolve and you become one with everything around you. Now, when I think of death, let's see, death is becoming perfectly still, right? Physically, death is you exhale and then you don't breathe in again spontaneously. You just stop breathing. And the mind stops working. Our brain, we could say the brain stops working. We stop thinking on that level. Our bodies start to dissolve and become one, if we let it, with the world around us. So, if we think of death as the goal of life, not something to be feared or pushed off, but the goal, does that affect how we live? If we know death is a goal, does that mean we live a good life so that our death is a happy death? Or do we avoid thinking of this subject altogether, just cross our fingers and hope for the best? Today in the meditative practice, I will invite you to consider this. If you think of death as the goal of life, what does that do for you? Does that change the process? I've thought of this relative to the sadhana. I mean, the goal of the sadhana is to do sadhana, but there is a final point, an ending, and that motivates me. In some ways, it makes this sadhana more valuable because if I knew I was going to do this every day for the rest of my life, I would have a vastly different attitude than knowing that it will come to an end. And I'm going to make the most of it. And thank you for helping me make the most of it by joining. So that's what we'll consider during our meditative practice. I will be in Shavasana today. No neighbors are around. Hopefully, they will realize I'm not really dead. But if they do, if they think so, excitement may ensue. Today's practice is dedicated to Allan, Dynes. And I only knew him for a short time, but let me tell you, my experience with him is that he knew how to live. And in the short time I knew him, he taught me a bit about living too before he passed away. So Allan, thinking of you, thinking of all of you out there, let's begin.
switch sides.
Let's prepare for our meditation. If you remember Shunya Mudra, thumbs pinning down the middle fingers, that's a great one for contemplating death. You can do Shavasana or sit. 5 minutes. Welcome back. I was enjoying being dead out on the yard. Mother Earth. Hello, trash men. So, another clue that death could be a goal of life, especially spiritual life, is that in India, when a great master dies, he is said to have taken samadhi or even mahasamadhi. And what is the goal of yoga in the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali? The eighth limb and final limb is samadhi. Something to think about. And if you'd like to learn more about dying a good death, I recommend chapter 8 of the Bhagavad Gita. If you are enjoying these little moments together every day, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. It really helps more than you know. You just being here helps more than you know. Have a wonderful day. See you tomorrow.